And welcome back to the special edition of Hannity. Fox News correspondent William LaJeunesse has been closely following this story since it broke, and he uncovers who knew what, when, and where these guns ended up once they crossed into Mexico.
We weren't giving guns to people who were hunting bear. We were giving guns to people who were killing other humans.
That is insane, inconceivable. You would never think that because ATF does not do that. If I had known that that was in fact occurring, I would have called ATF headquarters.
Most agents didn't know about Fast and Furious. Those who did followed orders.
It was relayed to me that they didn't have to explain anything to me. I was to do as I was told.
Agent John Dodson blew the whistle after the murder of Border Agent Brian Terry. It ended the program, but not the carnage in Mexico. This lawyer, the brother of a former state attorney general, tortured and killed. 21 dead in a shootout in Sonora. A helicopter down near Mexico City. All crimes committed with guns sent to Mexico with U.S. government consent.
The guns that we saw these individuals buy would begin turning up at crime scenes in the United States and in Mexico, and yet we still did nothing.
Nothing while Fast and Furious guns showed up in the hands of the La Familia, Sinaloa, and Beltran Leyva cartels.
It confirms what many Mexicans believe, that there's this conspiracy from the United States to sell guns to Mexico.
Conspiracy or simply poor judgment in letting guns walk?
Fast and Furious was unique, and here's why. In the past, a suspected straw buyer would be arrested in the parking lot or down the street. But in Fast and Furious, these stores were recruited by the ATF and the U.S. Attorney's Office. Multiple sales were approved, no arrests, and virtually no surveillance outside the store.
That allowed a handful of young thugs known as straw buyers to buy thousands of guns.
A straw buyer is usually a kid who's 18 to, I'll say 25, maybe up to 30 years old, who needs a couple hundred extra bucks and knows somebody that has a way to make a couple extra bucks. They walk into a store, they fill out a form, they buy a couple of rifles, and they walk out and give it to the guy. He gives them a few $100 and that's that.
Adrian Fontes represents Manuel Acosta, who recruited a dozen straw buyers out of this body shop in Phoenix, including Jaime Avila, who bought the guns that later killed Brian Terry, Jose Polanco, and convicted felons Jacob Chambers and Sean Stewart, who alone purchased 290 guns. Out of 20 Fast and Furious defendants, 19 were back on the street within hours of their arrest.
Alfredo? Yeah? Hey, my name's William LaJeunesse. I'm a correspondent with Fox News. Is there anything you want to say to these people who've been harmed by the guns that you bought?
No.
He's not going to say anything. Yeah. He needs to talk to his lawyer, or you need to talk to his lawyer.
Together, the group bought some 2,000 weapons while agents watched cameras installed by the ATF inside gun stores like Lone Wolf.
Were they ever told, sure, go ahead with the sale?
Oh, yes, sir. I mean, that's part of the problem, is that they were.
We'd say, well, do you want us to stop selling them? Is there something here we should be aware of? Oh, no. Continue to sell them.
More than one gun store panicked as boxes of assault rifles flew off their shelves and into pickup trucks bound for Mexico. Quote, I wanted to make sure that none of the firearms that were sold per our conversation could or would end up south of the border or in the hands of the bad guys, wrote the Scottsdale Gun Club. I'm looking for a bit of reassurance that the guns are not going south or in the wrong hands. In response, the ATF lied, assuring the dealers their guns would not see Mexico.
How many hundreds or thousands of weapons did you allow to be purchased knowing that they were going to Mexico?
Sir, the purchase was being done by a criminal organization, a large.
But you facilitated it. You allowed it, did you not?
Phoenix agent Bill Newell authorized the operation. He believed that sending guns south would expose the gun trafficking network, from the gunman and money man in Mexico to the smugglers, transporters, and straw buyers.
They had purchased over 1,000 firearms, and some of the purchasers were procuring them at lots of 10 to 20 at a time. At the same time, approximately 200 firearms in this investigation were recovered in the United States and Mexico.
I could not believe that someone in ATF would so callously let firearms wind up in the hands of criminals.
Mexican police found the guns at 122 crime scenes from Tijuana to Acapulco. Deadly shootouts involving the Sinaloa cartel and their enemies, including police.
So how many people here in Mexico were killed or injured as a result of Fast and Furious? Hundreds, officials say, but the exact number is not known. Why?
Because when Mexico attempted to trace those guns, the U.S. said the information did not exist, when in fact it did, which is why many here feel betrayed.
Me siento obviamente vulnerado.
I obviously feel violated. I feel my country's sovereignty was violated.
Senator Rene Arce heads Mexico's Judicial Committee. He and others say the U.S. broke international law by knowingly sending guns south.
This program was a great mistake at its conception. It is just absurd, especially because human lives were put in danger.
How many weapons do we have in the United States or in Mexico that are out there that are results of Fast and Furious that we do not know where they are?
You're looking in the ballpark of anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500, 1,800 guns still.
What's your best guess on how many of those are in Mexico and how many of those are in the United States?
I'd say 2 to 1, Mexico versus U.S.
Mexico now wants to extradite those responsible for authorizing Fast and Furious.
It will be very important that in the United States they are prosecuted, or at least there is some repercussions in terms of not only those who were involved, but those who allowed this to happen.
When did you first know about the program, officially I believe called Fast and Furious? To the best of your knowledge, what date?
I'm not sure the exact date, but I probably heard about Fast and Furious for the first time over the last few weeks.
Targets of the congressional investigation include ATF agents Hope McAllister, David Voth, George Gillette, and Bill Newell. U.S. Attorneys Dennis Burke, Pat Cunningham, and Emery Hurley supervised the operation in Phoenix. In Washington, Acting ATF Director Kenneth Melson and Assistant U.S. Attorney General Lanny Brewer are both believed to have approved the program, while at the top, Attorney General Eric Holder and President Obama claim they knew nothing, though some investigators believe otherwise.
You can take it to the bank that the United States Attorney for Arizona obviously was versed in it and told about it, but this is a decision that's made in Washington, and it's made at the highest levels of government.
And coming up next, we dive deeper into that very issue. Who knew what and when did they know it? And could this scandal threaten Eric Holder's career at the Justice Department? Those answer, much more coming up.